I need to tell you what happened to me 3 weeks ago because what Jesus showed me about this month will definitely terrify you. My name is Sarah Martinez, I'm 34 years old and I'm a school teacher from Phoenix, Arizona. I was completely healthy until the morning I choked on a piece of food while eating breakfast alone in my kitchen. Nobody was there to help me. I lost consciousness and died for 17 minutes before the paramedics found me and brought me back. But during those 17 minutes, I met Jesus face to face and he revealed 6 shocking events that will happen this month. Not next year, not someday, this month. And he told me I had to share this with as many people as possible before it's too late. When I first came back to life, the shock was not about what had happened in my body but what had happened to my soul. I realized that my faith had always been fragile, like a candle flickering in the wind. I believed in God, yes, but I had allowed daily worries, disappointments, and my own doubts to cover the flame. Standing before Jesus in that encounter was not about visions of light or heavenly scenes. It was about being stripped of all illusions. His eyes pierced through everything and suddenly I saw myself clearly. A woman who had been searching for comfort in routine, in family, in her job, yet had not surrendered fully to the one who gave her life. In those moments, Jesus didn't condemn me. Instead, he made me understand the difference between knowing about him and truly trusting him. I thought I had been faithful. I prayed, I attended church when I could, I tried to be kind, but deep inside my heart often doubted his presence. I carried silent fears. Fear of being alone, fear of losing control, fear of facing the unknown. And yet, standing in front of him, all those fears melted in his presence of love. What shook me most was not the prophecy of the 6 events. It was his unwavering love, even for someone like me, flawed, fearful, inconsistent. I felt him telling me, faith is not about never doubting, but about choosing to trust me in the midst of doubt. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be mine. That truth broke me. I realized how often I lived as if faith was a performance, something to prove to others or even to myself. But Jesus showed me that real faith is a relationship. Raw, honest, sometimes trembling, but anchored in his promises. From that moment, I knew I could no longer treat my faith as background noise in my life. I had to let it become the very heartbeat of who I am. And that is why, even if people call me crazy, even if they dismiss this story, I must speak. Because faith is not theory anymore. It's the only reality that holds me together. After that encounter, I could no longer see faith as something abstract. Jesus had made it clear. Faith was the foundation of survival not just for me but for everyone who would face what was coming. He told me that 6 events would unfold, but what stayed with me was not the sequence of events. It was the condition of the human heart. He said, the shaking is not only in the world. The greater shaking is within every soul. How you choose to believe will determine how you endure. I wrestled with that thought. For years I had lived with a divided heart. Outwardly, I carried myself as someone who believed, teaching values to my students, praying before meals, attending church on Sundays when I had the energy. But inwardly I often leaned on my own strength. When money was tight, I panicked instead of trusting God's provision. When relationships broke, I tried to fix them with my own wisdom. And when I felt lonely, I distracted myself with busyness instead of running into his arms. In those 17 minutes, Jesus laid bare the truth. Faith is tested not in times of comfort but in moments of loss, fear, and uncertainty. He showed me memories of my life where I had silently asked, "Where are you, Lord?" Nights of crying on my pillow, days of disappointment when prayers seemed unanswered. And he revealed something I had never seen before. He had been there, always. Not distant, not absent, but waiting for me to trust. That realization broke me again. I began to see that my doubts were not my enemy. My refusal to surrender was. Faith is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to hand fear over to him. And in that surrender, strength is born. Jesus' love did not demand perfection from me. It asked for honesty. It asked for trust that is willing to say, "I don't understand, but I believe you are good." As he spoke, I felt a shift inside me. The faith I once treated like a fragile flame became something deeper, a lifeline. He told me, "Do not wait until the storms rise to anchor your soul. Anchor it now in me." I understood then that the world outside may tremble, but the greater battle is always inside. Will we cling to fear or will we cling to him? And that is why when I speak now, I am not only warning about what is to come. I am pleading with every heart that listens. Let faith no longer be background noise. Let it be the voice you lean on when the world shakes. Because the shaking is not meant to destroy us. It is meant to drive us into his arms. As Jesus continued to speak to me, he did not begin with warnings of destruction or terrifying visions. Instead, he spoke about the heart, the soil where faith must grow. He said, "Many are afraid of what is coming, but fear is not the weapon I give you. Faith is. Without faith, every storm will swallow you. With faith, even the fiercest storm will lift you closer to me." Those words echoed through me like thunder and comfort at the same time. I realized that my greatest enemy had never been the outside world but the storm inside me. My fear of loss, my fear of being misunderstood, my fear of stepping out in obedience. These were the chains holding me back. Jesus showed me that the 6 events would not only reveal what happens in nations and systems, but would also expose what lives inside our souls. Some will be drawn to him in desperation. Others will harden their hearts. Faith will become the dividing line. In that moment, he reminded me of something I had long forgotten. The prayers I whispered as a child. I remembered being a little girl, praying in the dark when I was scared, believing that God was listening. Somewhere along the way, life's disappointments had buried that simple trust under layers of doubt. Yet he showed me that every whispered prayer had reached his ears. Nothing had been lost. He had been waiting for me to believe again with the same childlike trust. Tears poured from my soul as he spoke. "Sarah, tell my people this. I am not asking for perfect faith. I am asking for honest faith. A trembling yes is stronger than 1,000 proud refusals." That sentence marked me forever. Suddenly I understood. The world may shake, governments may fall, even the ground beneath our feet may tremble. But a single heart that says yes to Jesus will stand unshaken. When I returned from death, I carried not only a message about 6 events but also a plea. A plea for every soul to prepare their hearts now. Faith is not built in panic. It is built in surrender before the storm. And when we surrender, we discover that we were never alone. So if you are listening to me now, I ask you not only to hear but to respond. Do not let fear decide your future. Let faith be your anchor. If you desire God's covering, write a comment below. Say Amen as a step of faith, and believe that Jesus will guard your heart in the days ahead. After Jesus spoke to me about honest faith, he shifted my attention to the reality of trials. He said, "Do not imagine that faith will keep you from hardship. Faith does not remove the fire. It carries you through it. What is coming will test every heart, not to destroy but to reveal." Those words struck me like a sword. For so long I thought that if I truly believed, God would shield me from pain. But in his presence I understood the truth. Faith is not a shield from fire. It is the assurance that he walks with us in the fire. He reminded me of the disciples in the storm. They were terrified even though he was in the boat. The storm did not vanish instantly, but when they turned to him, his word calmed the waves. The same is true now. The storm will rage, but the question is, will we turn to him or to our fear? Jesus showed me how people respond when the world begins to shake. Some cling desperately to possessions, money, or status, things that cannot save them. Others collapse into despair, convinced that all hope is gone. But he also showed me another group. Those who choose to trust even when everything looks impossible. Their peace became a testimony. Their joy in the midst of pain drew others to him. I saw this truth play out in my own memories. Times when I panicked over bills, when I doubted my worth as a mother and a teacher, when I felt abandoned. Those were the moments I leaned on the wrong foundations. And yet in each scene he whispered, "If you had leaned on me, your heart would have found rest." Then he looked at me with eyes that carried eternity and said, "Sarah, tell them, faith will not make life easier, but it will make them unshakable. The world will try to steal their peace, but those who keep their eyes on me will shine like light in the darkness." I realized then that the storms ahead are not punishment but purification. They will strip away false securities and expose what we truly depend on. And in that exposure, many will discover for the first time that Jesus is enough. So if you are hearing this, let me remind you, what is coming is not meant to crush you but to call you deeper. Do not waste time clinging to what cannot last. Anchor yourself now. And when the shaking begins, you will stand, not because you are strong but because he is faithful. As my encounter with Jesus drew to its close, he looked at me with eyes that carried both sorrow and hope. He said, "Sarah, the world will tremble, but do not be afraid. These days are not the end, they are the beginning. I am preparing my people not to run but to rise." Those words sank deeply into my heart. For the first time, I understood that the coming storms were not signs of abandonment but invitations to intimacy. The trials ahead were not punishments but opportunities for faith to become real. Jesus made it clear. The 6 events were not just global happenings. They were mirrors revealing the true condition of every heart. Some would resist, clinging to illusions. Others would open their lives to his light. I felt his hand on my shoulder and he said, "Tell them this. I am not looking for perfect saints but for willing hearts. The door of mercy is still open. The shaking is a final call. Return to me while there is still time." Those words still burn in me. I know many will mock this story, call it hallucination or dismiss it as fearmongering. But I cannot remain silent. I was dead for 17 minutes and in that space between life and eternity, Jesus gave me a message. Not to terrify but to awaken. Not to destroy but to heal. When I woke up on my kitchen floor with paramedics hovering over me, I felt more alive than ever. Not because of my heartbeat but because of the fire in my spirit. I knew then that my purpose was no longer to live for comfort, but to live as a witness. Even if I lose friends, even if I am misunderstood, I will not bury this testimony. So now I share this with you, not as a preacher, not as a prophet, but as a woman who has seen Jesus and cannot go back to silence. The storms are coming. But in the storms there is a refuge. His name is Jesus Christ. If you long for that refuge, do not wait. Say Amen with your heart. Write it below as your public step of faith. Not for me, not for others, but for him. Let this be the day you anchor your soul in the only one who can never be shaken. And believe, when you call on his name, he will cover you, protect you, and carry you through what is coming. This testimony is not a story to frighten, but a call to awaken. Jesus revealed to me that the storms ahead are not to destroy us, but to draw us closer to him. Faith is the anchor, hope is the light, and his love is the covering that never fails. If you are hearing this, do not wait another day. Call on his name, trust him, and let your heart be secured in his promises. Type Amen in the comments as a step of faith, and believe that Jesus will protect you and your family in the days to come.